What is a virus? Right now, we are living through a global pandemic. A virus, SARS-CoV-2, has disrupted human lives all over the planet by causing a disease called COVID-19. One of these viruses is about 700 times smaller than a human hair. How can such a tiny virus cause such big problems? What is a virus? Discovering viruses. Scientists first observed viruses only after the electron microscope was invented in the 1930s. Viruses have probably been around for billions of years. Their origins are still debated by scientists. Did they appear with and evolve with bacteria and other ancient cells? Did they appear before? Did they evolve from single-celled organisms? We do know that there are a lot of viruses, more than 10 to the 31st, 10 billion trillion. That is more than all known life forms combined, including bacteria, archaea, protists, fungi, plants, and animals. This picture down here, the caption, viruses cannot perform basic life functions unless they are inside another organism's cells. Some viruses, including coronaviruses, like the one shown here, are studded with spikes that attach to receptors on host cells. This is a computer-generated 3D image, not an actual photo. Virus structure. Viruses are tiny bundles of genetic material, DNA or RNA, but not both. Enclosed in a protein shell called a capsid. The virus on the right is called a bacteriophage. It can attach to, invade, and multiply in bacteria. The virus on the left is a coronavirus, named for the crown-like spikes that surround it. Portrait of a virus. Viruses come in many shapes and sizes. They are not made of cells. Instead, they are genetic material in the form of DNA or RNA. The genetic material is surrounded by a protective protein shell called the capsid. Because a virus is not a cell, it cannot reproduce on its own. The virus has to enter a cell called a host cell in order to reproduce. Many viruses, including coronaviruses, have an envelope with spikes covering the capsid. The spikes are protein molecules that stick out to attach the virus to the host cell. Other viruses have a protein tail that attaches to the host. Once the virus attaches to a host cell, it can inject its genetic material into the host. It's another picture with a caption. A scientist
I
uses...
don't think I'm going to get done with this today. Can I come to your study hall?
Sure, no problem. Bye, I'll see you later. A scientist uses a pipette to transfer a virus into vials for sharing with other laboratories for medical research. She follows very important safety procedures and wears personal protective equipment, PPE, to protect herself from exposure to the virus. SARS-CoV-2. In December 2019, doctors in China realized that patients were getting sick with a new disease. Doctors, scientists, and other researchers worked quickly to understand the new disease, which we now all call COVID-19. COVID-19 is caused when a virus called SARS-CoV-2 enters a host cell and begins to reproduce. SARS-CoV-2 is a coronavirus, a virus with crown-shaped spikes. Other coronaviruses cause a severe disease called severe acute respiratory syndrome, or SARS. And other coronaviruses even cause common colds, but SARS-CoV-2 is a newly discovered virus that we are just beginning to understand. Like other viruses, SARS-CoV-2 injects its genetic material into the human host cell and tricks the host cell into creating new copies of the virus. Each cell can create and release millions of new copies. These new copies move into nearby cells and start the process over again and can be passed to another human, infecting a new host. The virus triggers the host's immune response, making the person sick. It's another graphic right here. The H1N1 virus caused a worldwide pandemic of swine flu in 2009. The virus was not identified until after researchers had begun making that year's seasonal flu vaccine. Are we part virus? Scientists have discovered that humans are part virus. The genetic material of viruses makes up 8% of human genetic material. What do these embedded genes do? Most of the viral genes in the human genome have changed over time and no longer seem to have any effect. But one is responsible for making a protein that holds the placenta in a mother's uterus. Without this essential viral gene, you might have never been born. It appears that viral genetic material became part of the human genome during thousands and thousands of years of infections. As viruses infected humans, they sometimes inserted their DNA into the egg or sperm and took over its genetic machinery. Some of those human cells survived to pass on the viral DNA to the next generation. In some cases, these genetic changes have been helpful. Vaccines fight viral diseases: COVID-19, influenza, the flu, smallpox, measles, AIDS, herpes, rabies, Ebola, warts, polio, the common cold, and chickenpox are just a few of the human diseases and infections caused by viruses. Some, like smallpox, have led to millions of deaths. Others, like chickenpox, can stay in your body for years, emerging later in life to cause a painful rash called shingles. Some, like the human papillomavirus that causes common warts, hardly bother us. Antibiotics affect only bacteria, not viruses. This is why doctors do not prescribe antibiotics for the flu or a cold. Vaccines are the most powerful weapon we have against viral diseases. Vaccines are a form of prevention. Some are made of harmless bits of modified or dead virus pieces, which are injected into muscle or blood. The body recognizes these virus pieces as invaders. Even though these modified or dead virus pieces cannot make you sick, the immune system fights them. The immune system responds to the vaccine by building molecules called antibodies. When the real viral invaders show up, the antibodies respond quickly to kill them. The first vaccine developed was for smallpox. Thanks to a global vaccination effort, humans have wiped out that killer disease. Polio is another viral disease that has nearly disappeared thanks to successful worldwide vaccination. In spite of vaccination, measles kills about 200,000 people each year. It can also cause miscarriages. If we were to stop vaccinating for measles, it is estimated that about 2.7 million people would die each year. The classic symptom of chickenpox is a skin rash that turns into itchy, fluid-like blisters. The chickenpox vaccine has nearly eliminated this once common child illness. The three domains of life: eukaryote domain, plants, animals, protists, fungi; bacteria domain, archaea domain, viruses. Given their vast variety and the huge number of newly discovered viruses, some scientists propose that viruses should be classified as a fourth domain of life. Scientists have developed a few antiviral drugs to treat HIV infections, flu, and herpes. Progress on antivirals is difficult because viruses live inside cells. It is hard to kill the virus without harming the host cell. Viruses' genetic material changes quickly too, so a vaccine for this year's flu might not be effective next year. We need a flu shot every year to protect us against new forms of the virus. Scientists, doctors, and other researchers are racing to develop a vaccine for SARS-CoV-2. But creating a new vaccine takes time. Scientists must be certain a vaccine is safe before giving it to billions of people, and that requires careful testing. Researchers around the world are working together to try to make a vaccine available as soon as possible. Think questions. How do viruses depend on cells? How do you think virus genes became part of human genes? How do humans protect themselves from viral diseases? What questions do you have about SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes COVID-19? That is all for the day. Please continue with the presentation.